the latest in politics, business, entertainment, and sports. I am Martha Chokoto, alongside,
of course, Simeon Boyce, and our Son language interpreter tonight is Lemponda. Glad you could join us. Let's take a look at the stories making the headlines.
Government reiterates commitment towards improving human resource management in both public and private sectors. Parliament assures to help Malawi Broadcasting Corporation achieve its goals and ambitions. Investors begin to commit their capital into the Cassia rutile and graphite mining project in Lilongwe.
Well, glad you could join us, and now the news in detail. Government says it remains committed to promoting improved human resource management both in the public and private sectors. Principal Secretary responsible for administration in the Office of the President and Cabinet, Rashidi Mtelera, made the commitment in Lilongwe on the sidelines of a courtesy call by the Human Resource Society of Malawi to the Chief Secretary, Justin Saidi. Mtelera said to show the commitment, government was in full support of the Human Resource Management Bill currently being drafted at the Ministry of Justice. Mwaim Tumodzi with the details.
On Wednesday, the Human Resource Society of Malawi paid a courtesy visit to the Chief Secretary to Government, Justin Saidi, and the Minister of Labour, Skills and Innovation, George Gona. Principal Secretary responsible for administration, the Office of the President Cabinet, Rashidi Mtelera, said government values the position the Human Resource Society of Malawi has taken in supporting the establishment of legislation on human resource management.
The courtesy calls first the society to introduce themselves to the Chief Secretary. And after that, there are other issues like the bill on human resource management. They wanted to come and brief the Chief Secretary and register the inquest and to lobby. The Chief Secretary is the controlling officer of public service. And then these societies, they've got members who are workers in the civil service, for instance, or other public service sectors. So if you are a controlling officer of the public service, it means that you work with human resource, you work with these people, and if there's a society which regulates those people, then there should be this linkage.
On his part, President of the Human Resource Society of Malawi, Gift Nyambalo, said the visits to the Chief Secretary to Government and the Minister of Labour are critical for the advancement of improved human resource management, as well as lobbying for the Human Resource Management Bill.
Yeah, so the meetings have been very fruitful. The critical issue has been about the Human Resource Management Bill, which is at an advanced stage. As we speak, stakeholder engagements were already done, and the bill is at the drafting level at the Ministry of Justice. Once the draft bill is out, we need the various stakeholders to help us in pushing the bill into coming a law. And such kind of offices includes the Minister of Labour as well as the Secretary to the President and Cabinet.
The Human Resource Society of Malawi was established in 2018 with the aim of advancing human resource excellence in Malawi among trained human resource professionals. Mwaim Tumodzi, MBC.
Now, Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Mary Navicha, says the government of Malawi values its partnership with Scotland, which has now reached 20 years. Navicha made the remarks in Edinburgh, Scotland, during a meeting with Scottish non-governmental organisations. During the meeting, which was organised by Scotland-Malawi Partnership, the non-government organizations welcomed Malawi's decision to introduce free secondary education and abolishing examination fees, describing it as a major step towards empowering young people and improving access to education. More in this report.
Mami Martin Fund representative Moira Darnold said the fund, which operates in Malawi's northern region, supports girls' education in schools under the CCAP Synod of Livingstonia, the Catholic Diocese, and at Mjengo Community Day Secondary School in Mzuzu. She said the organization is currently supporting 163 students and noted that the removal of the 2 course components would allow the institution to focus its resources on providing boarding fees and transport for rural students from poor backgrounds. Emma Wood of Staker Skills said empowering Malawian women includes ensuring access to education and information that can improve their social and economic standing. She added that such empowerment also involves challenging certain cultural norms that still exist and hinder women's development. Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Mary Navicha, said Malawi regards Scotland as one of its most dependable friends in the world. She further said over the years, Malawi and Scotland have supported each other through strong people-to-people ties, and she appreciated Scotland's contributions to Malawi's social development agenda. A Malawian based in Scotland, Getty Kawazi, who runs an NGO that supports widows, said families that have lost their breadwinners stand to benefit from the new access to education. She said the policy would make a significant difference to young women and widows. Malawi Human Rights Commissioner Boniface Massa contributed to the discussions through a letter read by Dr. Yona Matemba, highlighting the plight of people with albinism. Eric Sambisa, a human rights fellow at the University of Dundee, called for a more inclusive approach to human rights in the country. Other Scottish organisations also made presentations during the session, including the Turing Trust, which said it has shipped more than 5,000 recycled computers to Malawi for use in educational institutions. The University of Strathclyde highlighted its work documenting Malawian women for publication on Wikipedia, while the University of Stirling outlined its ongoing road safety project in Malawi. The meeting underscored Scotland's continued support for Malawi's social and educational development agenda. Hilda Ngumano, MBC Blantyre.
Deputy Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Martha Mzomera-Ngwira, says government is championing different programs and policies aimed at empowering and protecting the rights of women and girls in the country. The Deputy Minister said this at a press briefing in Lilongwe ahead of the International Women's Day to be commemorated this Friday. Austin Fugula reports.
Ngwira pointed out that government seeks to address issues of violence, harmful practices, women underrepresentation, among others, which continue to hamper women's progress in the society. She says the ministry has lined up different activities like holding panel discussion, sensitizing the public through media engagements and community outreach programs involving the youth and community leaders as a means of commemorating the day.
Let me assure the general public that my ministry will make sure that women and girls are empowered, their rights are protected, and they are accessing on justice. My ministry, under the leadership of Professor Arthur Peter Mtalika, will make sure to achieve gender equality and champion policies that will make to empower women and girls.
UN Women Deputy Country Representative Fatima Muhammad says Malawi has strong legal laws that protect women and girls. However, she cites underfunding and cultural norms that undermine the role of women as some of the challenges hindering women to attain higher positions in communities.
Malawi has a strong legal framework, from prevention of violence against women to protection, to issues related to family relations, as well as ending child marriage. However, the challenges still exist. 1 in 3 women in Malawi are subjected to violence, according to national statistics. The prevalence of early marriage is also very high, at 38%.
This year's International Women's Day will be held under the theme Rights, Justice and Action for All Women and Girls. The day falls on 8 March every year, but Malawi will commemorate it this Friday. Austin Fugula, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Following President Professor Peter Mutharika's order that schools and workplaces, whether public or private, should provide and maintain waste disposal facilities within and the surrounding premises, MBC checked some of the said places in Blantyre if they have complied with the order. Mese Zamawa has filed this report.
The President Executive Order is meant to promote hygiene and sanitation in both public and private spaces like markets, bus depots, car parks, recreational facilities, and venues for public gatherings. Walking around Blantyre, it was observed that the order has further enhanced cleanliness within the city. A visit to marketplaces and bus depots shows that most places are smart and free from litter. Chairperson for Blantyre Market, Black Binya, says the executive order has given them the resolve to ensure that cleanliness is maintained in the market at all times.
I strongly agree with the President's executive order on sanitation, and here at Blantyre Market, cleanliness is really improving. And we're actively working hard to promote hygiene and cleanliness.
When the
direct order was issued that bins should be placed in places like stages, bus depots and churches, people were encouraged to be responsible and to make sure the bins are actually being used. When we eat food while walking, we should throw the waste into those bins to prevent diseases like cholera, since it has started spreading. It is therefore important for us to have such bins and to take care of them. There should also be bins that can be properly covered. The President has done a very good thing.
However, a visit to most depots revealed that disposal facilities are lacking for people to dispose their waste. It seems people have embraced the executive order, but it would be more ideal if disposal facilities are available and that people are disposing their waste in them. The order comes amidst concerns over poor sanitation and hygiene practices. Meanwhile, a report by the Ministry of Health says that as of February 27 this year, 103 people were tested positive for cholera, including 8 who were symptomatic, and 2 of them died. Mercy Zamawa, MBC News, Blantyre.
Now, after looking at the pictures, it looks like already there is compliance on the President's directive.
Well, the directive wouldn't have come at a better time. Well, we all know that, reducing such hazards is also reducing diseases, which is in a way controlling expenditure in terms of medicines in our country's hospital. And we must commend the President for coming up with such an executive order. It shows the executive's commitment towards improving the welfare of Malawians. You may agree with me, Simeon, that already Blantyre showed its commitment towards improving sanitation and the like. You saw what the mayor did or has been doing, reaching up to companies that were secretly or silently polluting the atmosphere or environment in Blantyre. Well, this is commendable. We just have to take plea or make a plea that other cities or all the areas should follow suit, because in this way, where we may be following what our authorities, the leaders are doing. Look at what the Beautify Malawi Trust is doing as well in promoting hygiene and sanitation. This is in a way taking care of our environment. Environmental health is an issue. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yeah, you're right. And already there are cholera cases in some areas, and I believe this is also important to make sure that we arrest this problem of cholera. That is now a big problem.
Yeah, and just to add on, maybe let me take advantage over this as well. It's not only about solid sanitation. When you look at our road users, you would find some cars with heavy and hazardous smoke. This is also a danger to the environment because they are polluting the air that we're breathing. So, we have to look into this as well. And moving on, The Media, Communication and Information Committee of Parliament has assured the Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, MBC, that it will help it achieve its goals and ambitions. Chairperson of the committee, Kingweo Lipuga, said this in Lilongwe after management of MBC met with the committee to discuss the corporation's 2026-2027 budgetary allocation. He described the budget which MBC presented as ambitious and befitting national expectations. From Lilongwe, Patrick Dambura reports.
In her presentation of MPC's 2026-2027 budget to the Media, Communication and Information Committee of Parliament, Acting Financial Controller Linda Saka said the corporation has projected revenue of 9.2 billion kwacha, while government subvention stands at 8.9 billion kwacha, which brings the total budget to 18.18 billion kwacha, with expenditure being pegged at 18.15 billion kwacha. Among the major activities of the 2026-2027 financial year, MPC plans to replace 7 pool vehicles, which would lower recurrent transport expenditure currently at 1.15 billion kwacha. The corporation also plans to finish the modernization of its studios, which would require 3.2 billion kwacha, as compared to the 500 million kwacha that has been allocated for the purpose, according to Saka. Speaking in an interview later, Acting Director General of MPC, Moses Chioni, said the broadcaster is using archaic equipment, which, if modernized, would help to bring more revenue to the institution, as it would compete on an equal footing with other players.
We're looking at additional resources to ensure that we replace our aging infrastructure. We have got aging and aging transmission and studio infrastructure that we would want to replace. So we have embarked on a modernization project. So we feel that with that modernization project we'll be able to go on another level as MPC in terms of how we deliver our services to the public.
Chairperson of the Media, Communication and Information Committee of Parliament, Kingweo Lipuga, applauded MPC for presenting an ambitious budget, which he said will help MPC to achieve great things for Malawi.
That is what we can assure them, especially that they seem to be a new MBC that they want to achieve great, and also they have got their own ambition. So we think together with them, we can help them. And especially, you know, the president of this nation, Professor Peter Mutharika, is having people at heart. And MBC is one of the two. It makes life better for the people. You are entertained, and also because you get informed with the MBC, it is the mandate of this nation and also our interests as parliamentarians to help them to achieve their goal. So we will do that.
Earlier on, MPC highlighted some of the key achievements of the 2025 financial year, among them buying an outside broadcasting van, reducing expenditure by 32%, and acquiring 11 HD cameras. Parliament is currently scrutinizing individual budgetary allocations to government ministries, departments, and agents. Patrick Dambula, MPC News, Lilongwe.
The Blantyre Magistrates Court has given 30 days to parties involved in the case in which Netherlands national Wim Akesta is answering charges of sexually abusing young boys to make their written submissions before the court can decide whether the accused has a case to answer. Chief Resident Magistrate Paul Chiwota told the court that he will deliver his ruling on 13th April 2026. State Prosecutor Victor Jele and lawyer for the accused, Michael Gobach-Peter, questioned the state's final witness, Simeon Kamisa, who is one of the senior investigators, about what they discovered during their investigations into the matter back in 2020. Jele explains to our reporter, Ruth Chinangwa.
No, I think on the part of the prosecution, we are happy. We have finished reading our witnesses. The one who we just finished was the last witness. If I'm not mistaken, that was the 6th, if not 7th witness. But in terms of the cross-examination, I don't think there's anything on our part to worry about. The witness was very firm in terms of his testimony, and I think he was a solid witness. For now, as the court has indicated, the next step is for the parties to file submissions. On the part of the state, our argument would be that we've made out a case sufficient enough for the accused to be found with a case to answer. I think on the part of the defense, they'll be saying there's no case to answer, but as the court has indicated, the ruling will be made on the 13th of April as to whether the accused has a case to answer or not.
The use of organic fertilizer is said to be gaining momentum in Cholo district, with over 23,000 farmers using this type of fertilizer. Director of Agriculture Services in the district, Jackson Mvula, said this is one of the strategies they are using to restore fertility and conserve the soil in the district. We have a joint report by Secret Segula and Yohane Chizomola.
This is Andrew Jumbe from Bezo Village Traditional Authority Meg in Cholo. He says he started using organic fertilizer from cow dung in 2024. Before, he used to harvest 3.5 bags of maize from a half acre of land. But since he started using organic fertilizer on the same land, he is able to harvest 12 50 kg bags of maize.
As for me, I am differentiating between organic fertilizer and chemical fertilizer. Organic fertilizer helps me a lot. And as of now, I stopped using the other type of fertilizer and I'm using this one. I am benefiting a lot from this. Look at the maize behind me. It looks so green and healthy.
Land Resource Conservation Officer for the district, Ben Livala, says they have registered a positive impact from the use of organic fertilizer, saying even when there is a prolonged dry spell, maize performs well.
Farmers and also encouraging farmers in the district that use manure, because it is the only way that as households they can be at least resilient to the effects of this climate change, as already said, what we have already experienced dry spells in the district for 2 weeks.
Director of Agriculture Services in Cholo District Council, Jackson Mvula, says as a district they have intensified the use of organic fertilizer as one way of conserving soil in the district. Mvula added that so far 23,318 farmers are using organic fertilizer with over 100,000 compost pits available.
We are doing demonstrations. The moment we have mounted demonstration, the other thing that we want to reach more, we are going to have field days. At the meantime, they have already started a few days outside there to sell the technology. And most of the farmers, they are using this one just because we are looking at it's cheaper. Yes. Yeah. And I think we're encouraging our farmers. You know, Cholo, most of the land is degraded. Now, to improve the degradation of the land, we are encouraging our farmers to use conservation farming.
Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Togotembo, hinted that his ministry is currently working with extension workers to encourage farmers to intensify the use of organic fertilizer.
It is quite unfortunate that as a country we have relied on chemical fertilizer for quite some time. Even where people have got very good soil, they still try to use chemical fertilizer. This is not a good thing because it leads to depreciation of our soils. As a ministry, we're doing all we can, working with extension workers and everyone, to encourage them to use organic fertilizer because it's much better than other fertilizers sometimes. So yeah, there is a program to work with extension workers to make sure that we encourage organic fertilizer.
Commenting on this, agriculture expert Tamvani Mvula has commended government for encouraging the use of organic fertilizer, saying it will help in conserving the soil, but also pointed out that the chemical fertilizer should not be completely sidelined.
Well, first I should say that the idea to promote the organic fertilizer is a very good idea, because when you're talking about organic fertilizer, it does not only support the increase of nutrients in the soil, but it also helps in terms of promoting the structure of the soil. But in terms of the amount of nitrogen, I think organic fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer is still very, very, very good that it must be promoted. because we cannot just do away with the inorganic fertilizers and say that we're going to promote organic fertilizers.
Currently in Cholo, 44 hectares of land are under reduced tillage, which is also expected to mitigate the impact of climate change and loss of soil fertility.
You are watching MBC News, rather MBC News Hour here on MBC. Still to come.
And shortly, actually, we'll be joining our colleagues at our Lero studios, plus the latest business and sports news. But now, a reminder of our top stories. Government reiterates commitment towards improving human resource management in both public and private sectors. Parliament assures to help Malawi Broadcasting Corporation achieve its goals and ambitions. Investors begin to commit their capital into the Cassia rutile and graphite mining project in Lilongwe. Moving on with News Hour, now let's join our colleagues in the Lilongwe studios for the latest update there.
Welcome to the Lilongwe segment of News Hour, coming to you live from Area 4 Studios. You are with me, Patrick Dambula. Straight to our first story. Persons with disabilities in the country are said to continue facing various challenges in accessing infrastructure despite laws mandating accessibility. From some offices to shops in towns and cities, structures built without ramps, handrails or lifts leave persons with disabilities struggling to access spaces meant for everyone in the society. As Olivier Piri reports, they have called on authorities to ensure that all buildings are accessible.
Every person is born with dreams of learning, working and living freely. Life, however, is not the same for everyone. Some people are born with disabilities which bring various challenges in their lives. According to the 2018 Population and Housing Census, Malawi has about 1.7 million persons with disabilities, accounting for 11.6% of the national population. Persons with Disabilities Act of 2024 under Section 28(1) clearly states that a person with a disability has the right to access and use buildings, facilities and services that are open to the public, just like everyone else. In many parts of Malawi, some offices, shops and some public places remain inaccessible. There are stairs without ramps, buildings without lifts and little support for those who need it. As a result, something as simple as entering an office or buying basic necessities from shops becomes a daily challenge for many persons with disabilities. Meet Asif Yassini from Chipangula Village Traditional Authority in Ndindi in Salima, who was born with a visual impairment challenge. Yassini wonders if the designers of some buildings which lack ramps, lifts and handrails ever consider how someone like him can safely access the services inside.
A mere person like me go there and accessing the service there at Ministry of Education, Capitol Hill. There isn't any cap which can assist me to move around without any problem.
MBC visited and confirmed that the building at the Ministry of Education is indeed not disability friendly. Spokesperson for the ministry, Didi Kampan, highlighted that the ministry is putting in place measures to make the building accessible to everyone.
We acknowledge that our building was constructed many years ago at a time when infrastructure was not typically designed with inclusivity for persons with disabilities in mind. However, moving forward, we're taking action to change that. I am pleased to announce that the ministry is currently in the process of refurbishing a dedicated meeting room on the first floor.
Jafet Manda is another person with a physical impairment that limits the use of his leg and arm. He says it is painful and difficult for him to enter buildings that have only stairs.
The design of some buildings, especially the presence of steps, makes it very difficult for us to get on the inside. We often fall. And indeed, we have fallen before because of the way they are constructed. This kind of design clearly shows discrimination.
In February this year, the Malawi Human Rights Commission, MHRC, released the results of a public inquiry on access to services for persons with disabilities. The inquiry was conducted in Mulanje and in Nkatabe districts from 15th July to 15th August 2025. From its investigations, the Commission noted among other findings that persons with disabilities face challenges in accessing quality healthy care, education, and that there is also discrimination in workplaces. Commissioner Boniface Massa of the MHRC was one of the members of the inquiry.
There is a clear pattern of discrimination and stigma that is happening in our society. Although some areas have improved, but overall, if we look at the barriers that we have highlighted in this report, they are the barriers that have always been there. And it is our hope that now that we have also highlighted specific institutions that we should hold them accountable, it is our wish that the next inquiry that we may do, even when we do our monitoring visit to such institutions, we should be able to see great improvement in terms of access to services for persons with disabilities.
Chief Executive Officer for Construction Industry, the Regulatory Authority SIDA, Engineer Gerard Konje, has emphasized the need for stakeholders to include plans that ensure their buildings are accessible to everyone.
When we are talking about disability friendliness and access, let's not think about a third party. Let's think about ourselves. So that means when you are designing as a designer, think of yourself that perhaps tomorrow you are not able to see. Are you going to access that structure?
Meanwhile, Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Mary Navicha, has urged all building owners to ensure that existing structures are modified to improve accessibility, while newly constructed ones are fully accessible from the outset.
We are also working with the Minister of Local Government not to grant permission or approval to any construction of a building that does not conform for universal standards. After 2029, my ministry will take action if the building is not accessible.
As the country is looking forward to achieving Malawi 2063, persons with disabilities say progress must be measured by inclusion. For Asif Yassini, Jafet Manda, and other Malawians living with disabilities, accessibility is not a privilege, but a right. Olive Piri, MBC News, Lilongwe.
Thank you so much, Olive, for that report. The Zomba Store Feeding Cooperative based at Malosa in Zomba is stepping into commercial beef production courtesy of a 224.5 million kwacha matching grant from the Agricultural Commercialization AGCOM 2 project. As Doreen Sonan reports, the group has since started the construction of a modern kraal and other key facilities for its production.
Zomba Store Feeding Cooperative started as a village bank and transformed itself into a fully fledged beef production enterprise with a membership of 32. Through the first tranche of 104 million kwacha received from AGCOM 2, the cooperative has constructed a modern kraal, purchased 30 out of the targeted 60 cattle, and installed a water supply system, among other developments. Speaking to MBC, Vice Chairperson of the cooperative, Chimwemwe Sagona, expressed optimism that the project will significantly improve its members' livelihoods and help them realize their long-term vision of establishing a modern slaughterhouse to supply beef to Zomba City.
We want to have our own cold storage in 5 years to come and have our own slaughterhouse and a stable market where residents of Zomba will be getting us there. We want to become a major meat supplier here.
Managing Director for Yalumo Construction, which is constructing the kraal, Simon Akimu, gave an assurance that they are using high-quality material to withstand climatic shocks, and the kraal is expected to be completed within the agreed time frame.
We have just delayed with 7 days, but this is due to heavy rainfall, which has taken place a few days ago. But right now, we are moving forward finish it soon.
In Choro, we met Mbandanga Milk Producers Cooperative, which is transitioning itself to the use of biogas for cooking following intensive training in environmental management conducted by Agicom. The cooperative, which comprises 304 members engaged in dairy farming, is currently implementing an environmental and social safeguards plan through expert support provided under an Agicom grant worth over 190 million kwacha. Chairperson of the cooperative, Rex Malinga, said the grant has enabled the group to procure additional cattle, a development expected to enhance the cooperative's capacity to generate organic waste. This can be used in the production of biogas, a clean and sustainable energy source for cooking.
Makola wati kumanga chifukwa kuti nkati mwa grant paliso ndalama ina imene ili yoti tigulire ng'ombe.
We are constructing these cars because we need to buy more cattle. We have about 45 million kwacha set aside for this. Once we have more cattle, we'll be able to produce biogas.
One of the cooperative's members, Grace Nkonda from Traditional Authority in Chiramwira in the district, said the expansion in cattle ownership will translate into more economic benefits for members. She said this will allow them to invest further in environmentally friendly technologies such as biogas. Agicom 2 is a Malawi government flagship project being implemented with support from the World Bank. To date, more than 260 productive alliances comprising agricultural cooperatives, off-takers and other value chain players have accessed funding from the project to boost their agricultural enterprises. Doreen Sonani, MBC News, Tiolo.
Malawi has received an award for the successful implementation of a digitalized mass mosquito net distribution campaign. The recognition was presented during the joint annual meeting of the Alliance for Malaria Prevention and Seasonal Malaria Chemo Prevention held in Kampala, Uganda. Minister of Health Malaria Control Program Manager Dr. Lumbani Muntari said the award adds momentum to the country's efforts to strengthen malaria control interventions. Muntari further said the successful implementation of the digital campaign helped the country reduce malaria cases by 43% in 2025, while deaths declined by 30%. He explained this in our interview with Catherine Banda.
It's not only Malawi that did the digitalization. There are also other countries that did the mass campaign, but for Malawi, our work was very, very successful. That's why we are recognized as one of the countries that did extremely well using a digital platform. In 2024, we had a lot of malaria cases in Malawi. We had about 9.4 million cases of malaria. But in 2025, after the mass campaign, the numbers have reduced. So in 2025, we only registered about 5.4 million malaria cases. So we have reduced malaria cases by 43% after the mass campaign. So you can see a significant reduction. So there's a big impact with this mass campaign. So it has worked. Even the deaths in 2024, we had about 2,252 deaths. But in 2025, we have reduced the number of deaths to 1,629.
Abale Antonda, a Ngoni cultural grouping from traditional authorities Pambala and Tsigulamoa in Ncheu district, says cultural groupings need to go beyond promoting culture by helping government in various developmental projects. Founder of the group, Lord Ndoya, says such groups need to take advantage of the strength they have by helping government to build the nation. He said this in Lilongwe when the grouping came together to take stock of what they have achieved so far and usher in new office bearers. We have this report. The formation of the Abale Antonda was a brainchild of one Lord Ndoya, who after returning from the United States of America noted that the Ngonis were scattered all over and that there was a risk of having the Ngoni culture being extinct. Among its objectives were to ensure that the Ngoni culture is preserved by passing on the values, norms and heritage of the Ngoni to the youthful generation. Besides the cultural aspect, the grouping has managed to intervene in education and health sectors by building school blocks, buying school uniforms for learners, and medical drugs. Ndoya says cultural groupings should go beyond promoting culture, but that they should also be on the forefront in initiating various development projects because government needs a helping hand. He shares the vision of the group.
Looking forward, we look to work together as a group to make sure that in all corners, wherever we are in the central region, southern region, and also in the north, work together so that we can make a difference to the vulnerable. Some are in town and some in the villages. We want to be there for them, and others are in schools. They don't have school fees, and maybe they lack basics and all that, so we want to fill that gap.
Concurring with Ndoya is one of the members, namely Kingston Zolowere.
Cultural groups are formed by people who come from these local areas. So if people from their local areas come together and manage development in their area, it will be easier to actually complement government's effort in providing development to the masses in the local areas.
Formed around the year 2021, Abale Antonda had the aim of bringing the Ngonis from Munchewu district together. However, through the years, the group has expanded its mandate by venturing into other activities, including helping to conserve the environment. Patrick Dambula, MPC News, Lilongwe.
Well, that's how we conclude this segment of News Hour from our Area 4 studios in Lilongwe. You've been with me, Patrick Dambula. Thank you for watching, and we hand you back to Kwacha Studios in Blantyre for more stories.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And now the latest in business news. We are joined by Justin Nkwewu.
Thank you very much, and we start with the news that investors have begun committing their capital into the Kasia rutile and graphite mining project in Lilongwe, marking a significant milestone for the development of the mine. Country Manager for Sovereign Services Limited, Maxwell Kazako, confirmed to MBC that one of the notable investors is Rio Tinto, a global mining giant operating in more than 35 countries. Austin Fugula reports.
Kazako told MPC that Rio Tinto is currently a major shareholder of Sovereign Services, investing over 18% in the Kasia rutile graphite mining project.
At least with Rio, at least we are very much confident because they already did their investment and they have been providing the technical support to the project itself. But the rest of other investors, we are still in discussion with them.
Kazako further explained that the company has made significant strides in building strategic partnerships. Through its parent company, Sovereign Metals, it has entered into a 3-year strategic partnership with the International Finance Corporation, IFC, a member of the World Bank Group. Kazako said the partnership will support the company's quest for environmental and social impact assessment for Kasia rutile graphite project. He says the partnership is key to attract more investors to invest in the project.
IFC has got a highly reputable standards which are internationally recognized. So having a collaboration with IFC means a lot to us because one, it means our project is internationally recognized, and even the standards in terms of our implementation of the project itself would be so high that even the well-known investors, well-reputable investors in the mining industry will surely want to work with us because the fact that we are able to meet the IFC standards, then it means we are very good to go.
Recently, the Sovereign Metals signed a memorandum of understanding with Traxys North America during the 2026 mining meeting in Cape Town. Sovereign Metals says under the MOU, Traxys will work towards marketing an initial 40,000 tons of graphite per year from Kasia, with volumes expected to rise to 80,000 tons annually as production expands. Meanwhile, Kazako has disclosed that the definitive feasibility study for Kasia rutile graphite mining project is expected to be completed this month, and outcomes of the study will be made public as well. The project has mineral resources estimates of 17.9 million tons of rutile and 24.4 million tons of graphite. Austin Fukura, MBC News, Lilongwe.
The Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA, has adjusted upwards retail price for liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, used for cooking from 3,740 kwacha per kg to 4,475 kwacha, representing a 19.65% increase. MERA's Consumer Affairs and Public Relations Manager Fitina Konje has told MBC that the increase will encourage traders to import more gas to meet the country's demand. Some players in the industry have also hailed the decision, saying it will ensure continued availability of the product on the local market. Tamvani has filed this report.
Konje has told MBC that at the old price, importers were finding it difficult to bring in gas for cooking as the landing cost was higher as compared to the retail price, hence the price adjustment.
This price adjustment is necessary to allow importers to continue to bring this product into the country. The pricing committee met on 25 February, and it was noted that prices on the international market, especially prices of liquefied petroleum gas, had been increasing since the last price review, and therefore it was necessary to adjust these prices so that the importation of gas can be sustained and consumers can continue to find gas on the market.
Commenting on the development, one of the directors at Gasman Refilling Station in Limbe, Eugene Wheeler, said the increase was long overdue. He further said despite the increase, gas remains a cheaper and healthier source of energy for cooking compared to charcoal.
LPG is much cheaper than charcoal. Currently, even with the price increase, charcoal is more expensive than LPG. I mean, a 6 kg can be used for 40 hours, continuous burning. So, and it's faster, it's much cleaner. So I doubt that people will be going back to charcoal. It is very much affordable, very much affordable. So with the benefits, the health benefits, the economic benefits, I don't think people will return to using charcoal.
While welcoming the new price, one of the gas users, Katrina Mpumira, who stays at Kama in Machinjiri, said she is hopeful that the increase in gas price will come with a stable supply of the commodity on the market.
I'm happy with it. It didn't affect us. Yeah, because gas is cheap than using charcoal. Yeah, and it's quick. Also than even using electricity. We shouldn't have a shortage of gas. Yes, because if you have a shortage of gas, then we'll go back. We'll think, oh, it's better to be using charcoal because charcoal is everywhere. Yeah, so I think we should be having gas.
Meanwhile, MERA says the conflict in the Middle East has not impacted on the landing cost of petroleum products in the country yet, but they are closely monitoring the situation. Tamvani, MBC News, Blantyre.
Now, research is an important aspect of development. Different institutions have since joined forces to encourage research. This is the reason Credit Data, a credit reference bureau, organized a competition where tertiary education facilities competed for different prizes. The competition brought together tertiary education facilities such as MUBAS, Catholic University of Malawi, Blantyre International University and Malawi College of Accountancy. Its aim was to encourage students from the institutions to research solutions that can further financial inclusion in the country. Speaking during an award ceremony in Blantyre, Credit Data CRB Limited board member George Chavula said they are satisfied with the challenge.
The business development team constantly has research activities that are ongoing throughout the year. So there are many events that take place. I think we have come very far. We have seen a lot of involvement by the public, okay, in terms of their understanding of what the Bureau is. And so when you speak of financial inclusion, I think the services that we provide have allowed financial institutions to trust the consumers more, and therefore they've been able to open up and allow people to access credit.
Guest of honor at the event was the Reserve Bank of Malawi Deputy Governor Henry Matanga, and he applauded the Credit Reference Bureau for the initiative.
Financial inclusion is something that the country is pursuing. We need to make sure that all those that are unsaved out there, they need to be included in the financial system. So this exercise that Credit Data CRB Limited has done is an important exercise because it's part of the process of making sure that everybody within the country is financially included.
Well, with that, we've come to the end of the business segment inside News Hour, and it's back to you, my colleagues.
Well, thank you so much, Justin, for that business package. In entertainment, the Entertainers Promotion has organized a show dubbed the Easter Saturday. The event will take place at Nkopala Leisure Center in Manguji on 4th April next month. Now, speaking with MBC ahead of the event, founder of Entertainers Promotion Company, Jai Banda, has urged music lovers not to miss the event, promising fireworks.
This is a show, on Sunday, the 5th of April, we will be celebrating the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. So we just thought it fit that we should have an event a day before, which means that at 12 o'clock midnight we will be celebrating the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. So what we just thought is that we bring artists together, artists who will entertain the people who will be there. And what we've done is we've arranged for the gurus, actually, the music icons who are regarded as music icons in Malawi.
From entertainment, we'll move to the latest in the world of sports. Let's join Norbert Jameson.
We begin the sports segment in football. Since the establishment of the country's football flagship league some 37 years ago, only one female coach has defied the odds to lead a team in the elite league. Karen Chaula set the record in 2019 when she led Blantyre-based Ntopa United in the TNM Super League, and since her story has not been rewritten. Amin Musa caught up with Chaula to appreciate her coaching background as well as her source of inspiration.
I got interested in coaching the boys after seeing my fellow coach by the name of Maggie Jombo Sadiki. She inspired me the way she used to train us as girls, because I was together with her in the same team. And I ended up thinking of getting into the coaching career. It was quite difficult because if we think of TNM Super League, there are almost 16 teams. So with the 16 teams, meaning 16 male coaches, and I was the only female. And it seemed that I can't maybe do my part, but I gave myself the courage to say, let me give it a try, because if I manage to coach from the younger stage, from the youthful stage, why not in the TNM Super League? And the other thing that gave me the courage is because I'm also a coach educator. Then I said, why not me? Let me give it a try. But there were a lot of challenges, because it was not easy for me. When I was standing in the technical area, you could find that maybe some coaches would say, can this lady get some points from me? But I tried my best, and it showed that with the boys, by encouraging them, they made it, even though we didn't make it, that we didn't survive in the TNM Super League. I say that I've got the passion because when I sit, when I dream, when I sleep, when I wake up, when I eat, I think much about football. So you find that ladies, they think of their families. They feel like maybe they cannot control the boys by coaching them, and they feel like maybe by coaching the mains, maybe they cannot make it because they feel like it's not easy. Even though it's not easy, but with the encouragement, I feel like let them give it a try. No, I'm not yet done. I'm still moving. Even though I'm not yet attached to any team in the Super League, whether in the Premier, but I feel like one day, if given a chance, whether to come in as an assistant, whether to come in as a head coach, I can still give it a try.
The Malawi National Council of Sports has fired its Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Henry Kamata. Sports Council Board Chairperson Jim Kalua has confirmed the development. It is said that in November 2025, Kamata traveled to Cameroon without seeking clearance from the Office of the President and Cabinet, or PC. Back to football, Southern Region Premier League champions Chirobwe United have set a target of just a year to earn promotion into the FDH Premiership. The team will this year compete in the NBS Bank National Division League, and club president Taonga Mhango says they want to accomplish their initial target of spending a season in each lower league as they did in the Premier and Division 1.
I would say here as Chirobwe United Football Club, we are targeting just to stay 1 year in the National Division League, and I believe and hope, and I know all the players have this belief that we only stay for 1 season. We are not going there to settle, we are not going there to just be like any other team. We are not participating in a way, but we are there to compete and we will actually achieve Super League promotion next year. I think when people actually are more accountable and transparent, when results are measurable and can be seen on the ground, more partners are willing to work with those kind of people. So I think Chirobwe United, we are working in a more transparent way, whereby every resource that comes in, partners can see how it's been working, the results are being seen on the ground. And I think this is one of the elements or the reasons why partners are coming to partners Chirobwe United.
Officials from FIFA Plus TV are expected in the country this year to engage Football Association of Malawi and Super League of Malawi officials on fresh terms which could benefit elite clubs. Since the year 2022, FIFA Plus has been live streaming the country's elite football league, but clubs have not reaped the fruits. Sulom President Gilbert Mitawa explains why.
The arrangement that was there with FIFA Plus, it was that for the initial 3 years, this was going to be an initial investment period. So what does it mean? For us to be having all the games during a weekend, during the entire season, being live streamed, it required a substantial investment from FIFA. So they looked at this as the first stage. Now, as we are entering into the next season, 2026-2027, this is where now we have to start reaping the gains from FIFA Plus. The FIFA Plus team has expressed an interest to come and sit down with both us and the firm so that we can ably discuss the issues of live streaming and see how best we can reap the gains from the FIFA Plus.
Well, that's a wrap inside the sports segment as we hand you back to our main anchors.
Oh, thank you so much, Norbert. And that package also concludes this edition of News Hour.
A reminder of our top stories before we leave.
Government reiterates commitment towards improving human resource management in both public and private sectors. Parliament assures to help Malawi Broadcasting Corporation achieve its goals and ambitions. Investors begin to commit their capital into the Cassia rutile and graphite mining project in Lilongwe.
Keep up to date with news coverage on our digital pages by scanning the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen. You are with me, Arthur Chokoto, alongside
Simeon Boyce, and our sign language interpreter tonight was Linle Mponda.
From the entire team, thanks for watching and bye for now.
Good evening, and it's time for weather forecast.
Light to moderate rains were experienced over the country in a period of 24 hours and were recorded and reported this morning at 8, with Lupembe in Karonga reporting the highest at 18 mm, followed by Vumbwe in Cholo and Kawa in Karonga, which reported 11 mm. We are currently still expecting mostly cloudy conditions to persist over the country, accompanied by isolated thunderstorms and rains. This is all due to the influence of